What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Mid-round running backs, draft or pass. We're going to be looking at a bunch of running backs going in the middle rounds, and I'm going to tell you if you should be drafting them or passing on them. So for me, middle rounds is rounds 5 through 8. So we're going to be looking at, like 9 or 10 running backs, pretty much all of the running backs going in that range. And again, I'll be making a case for and against them. And honestly, I wasn't super pumped to start making this video. I didn't think there were that many running backs in the mid-rounds that I was excited about. But as I went through it, I think you guys are going to really like the discussion we're going to have on some of these players. And I think you're going to really enjoy this video. So if we could get a like on the video, that would be great. But let's start things off with the stat of the day. And today, it's not a player, it's a team. What team had the top-rated pass rush grade last season? Also, remember, you can download my rankings and my projections for both the draft and the regular season at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. But let's start with Tariq Colin. Colin's kind of going in that mid to late 5th round. Kind of depends on the people you're drafting with. And over his first 2 seasons, he's averaged 92 carries and 81 targets per season. Both of those years were with Jordan Howard as their lead back, getting 250 plus carries each season. This year, the Bears drafted David Montgomery, and they signed Mike Davis. Now, David Montgomery was a 3rd-round pick and is the better back between him and Mike Davis, so he's likely to be the lead back. But regardless of how those two split the carries, we don't really care for the basis of Tariq Colin. What does affect him is the fact that there are 2 players who are now going to take nearly every single carry. Colin is still going to get carries because there'll be times where they're in on 3rd down. He gets a 3rd down carry. But for the most part, he's going to see his carries decrease from what he's used to. Also, Mike Davis and Montgomery are both pluses in the receiving game. They're actually both solid receiving backs. So he moves from a lead back that is terrible in the receiving game, so he gets basically all of the receiving work out of the backfield, to a situation where both of the running backs are now good. I mean, they're both good receiving backs. For Cohen, this means that his average of 92 carries is likely to decrease to around 60. And the receptions, honestly, are a little bit of a wild card. They've said that he's going to maintain his same role. But you add these 2 running backs who are good in the receiving game. You add in Cordero Patterson, who, it's not like Cordero Patterson's going to be a target monster, but there will be plays designed for Cordero Patterson, and those are just plays that aren't designed for Tariq Colin. Right now, my projection for him is 56 receptions for 500 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 85 carries for 375 more yards and 3 touchdowns. I kind of expect those carries to decrease, so maybe the next time I run through the projections they will. But I kind of want to wait for camp just to hear a little bit more news about how they are going to use Tariq Colin. That projection that I just listed off is the 31st highest among running backs, and he's being taken as running back 27. And I found that I haven't taken him in a single mock draft because I think his ADP reflects more his old role, what he was to the team in these last 2 years, and I don't think it reflects his new role. We don't 100% know what his new role is, but we know it's not getting bigger. We know that for a fact. So the best case scenario seems to be that he'll return value, and I want to draft players I think will exceed. Not players that can exceed, that I think will exceed value. And I definitely don't think Tariq Cohen's going to exceed value, so for me, he's a pass. Next guy we're talking about, Darius Dice, and we still haven't seen Dice since his ACL injury last preseason, so we have no idea really how he's going to look once camp starts, but it has been enough time. It has been enough time for him to recover from this injury. He did suffer setbacks, so again, that's all we know is that he suffered setbacks, he had some infections in the knee. We don't know how he's going to look, so that just adds risk if you are drafting now. If you're drafting now, honestly, you just can't draft Dice. But ultimately, we just need to see how he looks to know what to do. So like I said, as of right now, I'm not drafting him because he was already viewed as a guy who isn't going to be that involved in the passing game before we even knew what team he was on. Like coming into the league, we knew he wasn't going to be that involved in the passing game. Oh, then he goes to a team with an excellent pass catching back. So he's going to split time with Adrian Peterson on early downs, get very limited work on receiving downs, and he's on a bad offense, right? He's not on the Saints or the Rams or the Chiefs. He's on Washington. So it's not like there's going to be that many scoring opportunities, and Adrian Peterson's going to take some, and Chris Thompson's going to take some, and they're going to throw for some. So it's a very tough situation for guys to excel in. If there's an injury to Peterson, that would obviously help him, but at the end of the day, even that, I mean, his ADP would probably just rise too much where you still can't draft him. So he's a no for me unless, he just comes out incredible in camp and they're like, yeah, we're just not going to use Adrian Peterson. But I think that's like a 2% likely outcome. And the most likely scenario is that he disappoints for his current ADP going in that mid to late 5th round range. Next, James White. And the issue with him is not that he won't produce. James White's going to produce this season. He's going to score touchdowns. He's going to catch passes. The tough thing with him is that you don't know when you're going to get 17 and when you're going to get 4. So at the end of the season, his numbers are probably going to look solid, but he's going to be inconsistent. And I know that they lost Gronk, so they lose his 72 targets from last season, but I expect Harry and the other wide receivers they brought in, plus whoever they use from the tight ends, I expect those guys to get more than what Gronk had. So, okay, there's not really extra targets available. And then you kind of ask yourself, okay, what are the splits with and without Gronk? Maybe there's something there they utilize him more. So maybe he can get the same amount of volume, but that volume is going to be more efficient or something like that. Maybe they can use more in the red zone. Honestly, his numbers look the exact same. If you take out the last 3 seasons, splits with and without Gronk, his numbers are just identical. So he's going to kind of see the exact same production on a per play basis. He's not really going to be used any more heavily. And they also drafted another running back early in this year's draft, so he's going to receive fewer carries. He should maintain a similar role in the passing offense, but right now I have him projected for 74 receptions, 664 yards, and 6.5 touchdowns. And that's basically what you're getting with White. He's basically a receiver that you can play at running back. I have him projected for just 30 carries and another touchdown, although, every little bit counts. And that comes out to the running back 25. Now, he's going as a running back 30. So my projections have him as a value. But it's, again, tough to know when you're going to start him. Like, obviously, you want to draft players you think you can start. And you can probably play him in the flex right off the bat. It's just going to be tough to know when is he going to get the touchdowns and when is he going to get those really nice weeks. Now, you could say that for anyone, but it's a little bit different with White because you're playing him as a running back on the Patriots offense. So there will be games where the Patriots score, let's say, low 30s. But if White didn't get the touchdowns, then he's not getting targets either. So he's going to end up with like 3 or 4 points. And it could easily come in a game where you think he's going to be great because they're going to score a ton of points, but he's not even used in the second half of the game because they're just running the clock out. So it's going to be really tough to know when you're going to get that production with White, and that's going to be frustrating. The thing is, I'm going to list him as a draft. I haven't taken him in, I don't think, any mock drafts, and I'm not sure I will be taking him at all, but I don't think that you should avoid him because at the end of the day, his projection is solid. Maybe he ends up as like the running back 35, but that'll only be 5 spots below where you drafted him, and there will be weeks where he does solid. I'm not drafting him because of how frustrating these players can be when the production is just up and down, which I expect it to be with him this season, but I'm going to list him as a draft because I do not think you should be avoiding him. Next running back, early 7th round, is Rashad Penny, and when camp starts, I expect Carson and Penny to just split the work. They're just going to give both of these guys the exact same volume, and they're just going to watch. And whoever does the best in camp is going to get that 1A role. So the worst case scenario for Penny is that he doesn't impress in camp and he starts the season as the 1B on a team that's probably going to be, the top 3 in carries per game. However, I expect him to win the 1A job. Pete Carroll loves Carson, so that's a tough thing to be a Penny owner knowing how much Pete Carroll loves Chris Carson. But he's not going away. So he's not going away. Unless he gets hurt, that dude's going to stay there. But Penny did really well as a rookie, and if he took any strides into his second season, then he's going to be a pretty good running back. And there are great reports coming out of camp, and it's also reported that he lost 15 pounds, which, if you watch him last season, is a good thing. So I'm drafting Penny because worst case scenario is that he's getting 40% of the carries on one of the most run-heavy teams in football. But the upside is massive if he can win that 1A job. And I honestly think there's a greater than 50% chance that that does happen. This is a guy who was very good last season. If you go look at the advanced metrics, he was really good. And towards the end of the season, he kind of outproduced Carson at times. So I would not be shocked at all if he took that 1A job. But the next guy I want to talk about is another person I've drafted in pretty much every mock draft, it feels like, is Latavius Murray. And I love Latavius Murray this season. You guys already know he's going to be a draft. Not only does he come with a decent floor being on the Saints offense, but he has just as much upside as any running back can have. They signed him to be the Ingram replacement, and that's a role that he can excel at. You know, he's going to see 9 to 11 carries a game and about 2 to 3 targets per game. And he's going to be used from time to time in the red zone. Remember how Ingram was used? He was 19th in carries inside the 20, which I guess isn't super high for a backup, but it's pretty high. He was 15th in carries inside the 10, which is a lot for a backup. And he was 7th in carries inside the 5, which is 1 less than Kamara. They used Ingram as a goal line back with Kamara. It was basically like, oh, Kamara's got his 2 touchdowns today. All right, Ingram, go get your touchdown today. Just spread around all the touchdowns in elite offense. And that's what's going to happen for Latavius Murray. And the reason I really want Latavius Murray is what happens if Kamara were to get hurt. We never wish injuries, but we have to plan if they happen. And what would happen if Kamara got hurt is that Murray's instantly a running back 1. So he's a solid flex option, assuming he stays healthy. And he's got massive upside if Kamara were to ever go down. And that's exactly the kind of player that I want in the middle rounds. And guess who else fits that mold? Darrell Henderson. Henderson is going to be one of the most interesting cases to watch this offseason. I am pumped to just see what happens to his ADP, especially once people see how good he is in the preseason. Because right now, I mean, I can guarantee you a lot of people, maybe even watching this video, don't know how good Darrell Henderson is. So I expect his ADP to be around the 4th round come late August, which maybe you just fell out of your chair hearing that, but he's going to be probably a 4th round pick, probably a late 4th round pick, but a 4th round pick come August. So if you're drafting before them and he's still in this late 7th round, you've got to take that discount absolutely every time. The Rams want to use him as their Alvin Kamara. This is a fact. And he is skilled enough to dominate in that role. Henderson led the nation in yards per carry and yards per carry after contact last season. He posted one of the most efficient seasons in college football history. Insert a player with that talent level into the Rams elite offense, and you get a scary amount of upside. All of this is not even considering Gurley's knee. This is all saying Gurley is 100% healthy. That's what they want to do with Darrell Henderson. But we know that Gurley's not healthy. We know that Gurley is no longer going to be the bell cow in that offense. And if he were to miss any sort of time, Henderson is instantly a running back 1. This is a guy with league-winning upside and a solid floor if things don't go his way. Just think about all of the teams that have been able to sustain 2 fantasy running backs over the last few years. The Saints, the Patriots, the Chargers at times, the Falcons, and the Bears. I mean, I'm sure there are more I didn't even list. What do all these teams have in common? They're elite offenses. And the Rams are obviously an elite offense as well. They have incentive to keep Gurley healthy as long as possible, not just this year, but going forward. Think about how much money they're paying Todd Gurley. They don't want him to break down, so they want to make him last as long as he possibly can, and that means limiting his workload. And what are you going to do to limit his workload? You're going to give the ball to one of the most efficient running backs in college football history, because you know if you scheme this guy the ball, he's going to produce. Remember how much I say running backs largely don't matter? Well, he's elite, and if the position doesn't really matter, if you can just throw guys into the position, he's going to excel. I'm not saying he's going to be Alvin Kamara, but the worst case scenario is that he's a flex option for you. And the best case scenario is honestly that he finishes as a top 5 running back, and you're getting him in the late 7th round right now. Even in the late 7th round, if I told you that Gurley does stay healthy the whole season, but I'm telling you he's going to be a flex option while that happens. Getting a flex running back in the late 7th round on its own with no upside to outproduce that is still a good pick. So now if I tell you that flex option could win you your league if something were to go his way, you have to take that every single time. So hopefully in the preseason, they don't use Henderson that much, but I have a feeling they are going to because we know they're not going to play the starters. And if they do, people are going to see how good he is, and his ADP is likely to rise and probably 4th round. Next, very late 7th round into early 8th round is Jordan Howard, and I just can't recommend drafting Jordan Howard in the 7th to 8th round. He's not going to see anywhere near the 250 carries that he had in his first 3 seasons, and I don't buy the reports that he's been doing well in receiving in OTAs. I feel like I hear that report every single season, and it's just not true. He's finished in the past 2 years as a running back 12 and 20, despite getting the 5th and 6th most carries in the league. Okay, I can guarantee you, even if Miles Sanders were to get hurt, he's not going to finish 5th and 6th in carries. Now, assume that Miles Sanders doesn't get hurt. I mean, this dude's not even going to be close to where he was in the past few seasons. Sanders is the best running back on that roster, so I wouldn't be surprised if that split ends up like 65-35 by the end of the year, and that's just going to put Jordan Howard on the waiver wire. I mean, I have him projected for 121 carries, for 525 yards, and 3.5 touchdowns with minimal receiving work. That comes out to the 61st highest projection among running backs in half-point scoring. Yet he's being taken as running back 36. So the only possible way that Jordan Howard pays off is if there's an injury to Miles Sanders and he just misses a huge stretch of time. Even if he misses like 5 weeks, I don't think Jordan Howard will be worth the pick. Don't draft him. Like, that's not what I want in my 7th to 8th round pick, is that the only way they pay off is if the dude that's better than him gets hurt. No, I want my 7th and 8th round picks to be able to pay off by themselves. So Jordan Howard is absolutely a no for me. And another absolutely no for me that anyone who watches my videos will know, I was going to say no to this guy, is Kareem Hunt. And I mean, the dude's suspended. It's not, some people have said, oh, you're just saying that because of what he did. It's honestly not even that. Like, obviously that's a negative. That's not the reason I'm saying don't draft Kareem Hunt. The reason I'm saying don't draft Kareem Hunt is because he's suspended for the first 8 weeks, and of course the Browns have a bye. So the first time you'll be allowed to start him is week 10. And assuming Chubb's healthy, there's no way you can trust him in week 10. You know, when week 10 rolls along, and this is his first week with the Browns, if your team is good at all, you're going to want to wait a week, right? You're going to want to see how he does. Then maybe you'll put him in your flex spot, but you're not going to put him in your flex spot in week 10. So realistically, the first time you'll be able to start him is week 11. And that's 3 weeks before the fantasy playoffs. The first game that you have him, and you can't put him in the IR spot because he's suspended. He's not hurt. I'm not drafting someone where I know the first viable week is week 11, because then you're not going to drop him either. Like, even if there's a gem on free agency and you don't have other players you want to drop, you can't drop Kareem Hunt because you're waiting for week 11. So you're not going to drop him in week 3 when there's a stud on free agency. So you're just put in a really tough situation when you draft him, and I want to avoid a situation like that. Because not even only that, realistically, you're the offensive coordinator of the Browns, and this dude is new to your team, and you haven't seen him since the first week of September, and it's November 4th, and you're honestly in the playoff hunt. You think you're just going to be like, all right, person that we barely know, like, just go in there for 60% of the carries. No, you're not going to do that, especially when you have an elite running back in Nick Chubb. So there are plenty of solid options going in the 8th round. No need to spend a pick on Kareem Hunt. And the last running back that we're going to talk about today is Ronald Jones. And I don't think people realize how good of a pick Ronald Jones is because of what happened last year. You know, as a 21-year-old rookie, he entered the NFL as a second-round pick, and the backfield looked like his. And because of that, there are reports that he didn't exactly put in maximum effort into his training and his health. So when camp rolls around, we hear these weird reports that Peyton Barber is the lead back, and we're like, what is happening? And then it comes true. You know, we go into the season, and the dude gets 23 carries for a pathetic 44 yards and 1 touchdown. But here's the thing. He was an out-of-shape 21-year-old rookie behind a terrible offensive line, and the dude was hit behind or at the line of scrimmage on 13 of those 23 carries. You know, what did Barber do with his 234 carries? A lot of carries, right? He had 871 yards, a garbage 3.7 yards per carry, and he gained 92 yards on his 20 receptions, which is an embarrassingly low, a pathetically low 4.6 yards per reception. So what did the Bucs do? They've got these 2 running backs that underperformed. One of them we know has no upside in Peyton Barber, and one who was extremely disappointing as a rookie in Ronald Jones. So what do? They draft no competition and they bring in no competition in free agency. Yeah, I understand they brought in Andre Ellington, but they didn't bring in any real competition. So what does that say for Ronald Jones? It says that they view him as their starting running back. 100%. That is what it says. So it is now Jones' backfield to lose, and all reports out of camp have been positive in that regards. Getting him at the very end of the 8th round is a steal. The Bucs are going to score points this season. They're going to be a good offense. So as long as the Bucs don't trade for Duke Johnson, then Jones is going to be a great pick for where he's going. So remember, you can have my rankings and download my projections that I talk about in this video and many other videos at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. We offer the least expensive draft package in the entire industry, so there's really no reason you can't afford this thing. It's super cheap, so head on over there, thefantasyfootballadvice.com, and remember to leave a like on the video. I think we had a great discussion today. I'm very excited about some of these players, and I hope you guys are as well. But that's the end of this one. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, how about we hit the like button? How about we subscribe if we are new? And thanks for watching.